Hello and welcome to Recyclist. I'm your host, Eric Provost, and thank you for tuning in to part two of my conversation with Susan Doyle and Wilton McVoitte of the Clearwater Futures Foundation and Clearwater Farm. Make sure to go back and check out part one of our discussion, where we started talking about everything that the foundation and the farm have to offer, including their amazing Future Chicken program. But let's go ahead and jump right back into the interview. So how have you guys, I assume you guys, when people show up to the farms, a lot of the messaging, because obviously you have so many kids that show up to the farms, I guess you have Future Chicken help you guys out with a lot of the education programs there.
It's an interesting question. Yes, yes. The short answer is yes. We have different education curriculum options for the farm. So we have our traditional, what Wilton was describing, regenerative farming practices.
Hmm.
So anybody interested in curriculum guides around that, which fits into curriculum streams up here in Ontario, they can do classes on that. Our outdoor education programs here are aligned to that, so you can come and have that hands-on experience on the farm. We also have our land-based learning curriculum, which was led, developed, and is facilitated by our local Chippewas of Georgina Island, which is our local Indigenous community that surrounds the farm. As well as, yes, there is a comprehensive Future Chicken curriculum guide. So, through all of her brilliance and knowledge and all of her planet protectors, there are fun quests that you can do around the property to learn some of her core messages as well.
And Wilton, hopefully you get out of the lab occasionally and interact with the kids and help with the education programs and stuff like that.
Yeah, it was mainly through when we had the digestion project here.
Hmm.
We had also tours coming through, and that's when I could explain what the process is about anaerobic digestion on the farm.
Expand on that a little bit, because you and I have spoken about that before. You guys did have a fairly sizable anaerobic digestion project for a while at the farm, correct?
Right. So probably in the scale of how anaerobic digestion is done, it's a much smaller scale in comparison. It was a 40-meter cube digester, and I think the uniqueness about that project was it was redesigned from a shipping container. So the technology providers, in terms of um, reusing material that would have been discarded, were using a shipping container to redesign the digester and to do the process through there.
Yeah, I feel like, for an organization, for a place that is so kind of focused on compost, and I imagine anaerobic digestion is kind of the next logical step after that.
Right. Especially in terms of thinking about how our farm operates, in terms of that regenerative farming practices, the digestate now can be used on the farm as a nutrient, a soil additive that can now close the cycle of how we are trying to reuse and reuse, or any product that the farm or any waste that the farm produces can now be turned back to the land, and those nutrients can now be recycled into the soil. That
Wonderful.
was the hope of the digestion project when we had it.
And Wilton, I know that anaerobic digestion program was a huge initiative for the farm. Could you expand on that a little bit, please?
Right. So we had a 40-meter cube digester, and we were using cow manure and food waste from a local food chain here in Ontario. And our goal was to use the biogas to not only keep the process going by heating the digester, but upgrading the biogas to natural gas quality, and then using that in a vehicle on site. Because the farm does deliveries to its customers, we would have a secondary fuel source in the vehicle. Instead of using just gasoline, we'd use the natural gas as a secondary fuel source. We were while doing it, we were able to get at least 103 kilometers of driving range from using the natural gas. And on a regular basis, we're producing at like around 20-meter cubes of biogas daily. The other gist about the project was we were hoping to use the digestate as a soil amendment on the farm. So we would separate the liquid and solid components from each other, and the liquid liquid component would be used in the greenhouse, sorry, as a fertilizer, and then we would compost the solid component and apply that to the land as a soil amendment again.
Nothing gets wasted, right?
Right, everything's recycled.
You said you were able to get 103 kilometers out of total driving range with your gas vehicle that you had there.
Right.
Nice, wonderful. That's amazing.
It was definitely an initiative that we're trying to push, and it was a great initiative for the town as well. It was trying to be a demonstrative site to show that at a smaller scale that an urbanization can be done, and it could be a greater reach for smaller towns that doesn't have like the funding to create bigger facilities. This was an alternative that could have been considered, but we're having some scale of it economy issues, so that's why the project had to close down.
So, as the scientific projects coordinator, what's kind of your big what takes up a lot of your calendar now? What's the big thing that you have going on up there at Clearwater Farms right now?
So right now we're preparing for our composting program. In the past, we did have well, it wasn't done on a holistic basis, but we did try to incorporate our own composting operations. But now
Hmm.
we're hoping for this season to actually be more intentional about it. So hopefully we'll be producing our own compost to at least reduce the amount of outsourcing that we have to do in terms of buying compost that we need for the farm.
Do,
Um,
do you have
sorry,
any
go ahead.
set goals for that in terms of what you're hoping to get out of maybe creating a new composting recipe? Any specific results you're trying to see from the crops in terms of the growth rate, or any decent hypotheses that you're working on right now with this new initiative?
Not fully right now. We're just in the very beginning stages of it. So we're still trying
Yep.
to figure out how that program would fit into the farm right now.
Yeah, you guys stay pretty busy up there. You guys you guys have kids showing up for educational programs. You guys have weddings out of the Clearwater Farms. You guys stay really busy. You said a decent chunk of the acreage that you guys have out there is, not necessarily for specific crop yield. What are the numbers? What are the figures? What's the data that you guys take from that acreage?
On the additional 20 acres, yes. That is used in many, many different ways. So we use it for our education programs. So some of our education programs are right in the fields, right in the greenhouses. But a lot of what we do is exploring the land around us. For example, we have a very comprehensive naturalized labyrinth. We have a small forest. We have access to a lake. We're building up a natural fruit guild area. So, depending on where you are on the farm, you have different experiences outside of just the crop yields. And as you mentioned, we also host things like conferences and weddings. So, some of that property is well manicured and maintained for those purposes, which is more events, if you will, driven, which is also a unique model in that our events program is really to advance the work that is happening of the foundation and the farm itself.
Yeah.
We incorporate into our events, for example, our crop yields. So the salad that you would be served at your wedding comes off the farm, for example. And we have an opportunity to talk about our regenerative and water conservation practices on the property. So as much as it's a beautiful venue, it's also giving back to the land and understanding those practices when you're on the property.
And speaking of the salad, my next question was actually going to be, I do want to talk a little bit about the actual crops that you guys do grow out there.
Mhm.
What types of fruits, vegetables, crops, plants, what do you guys use on those 10 acres to, I mean, not only create these salads that you're talking about, but help advance these scientific projects?
Yeah, I'll take that. That's okay, Wilton.
You can go ahead.
Yeah, thanks. So in terms of what comes off the farm, we look at our different crop plans on an annual basis. As a regenerative farm, there's no monoculture practices on the property, so we don't produce the same thing year over year in the exact same plot. So we look at our land, we test our soil going into the season, and we make a determination of what's going to be the most healthiest combination of crops for that season. We have a few staple things that we are known for at Clearwater Farm, which is our salad greens. As I mentioned, they are delicious, and tasting them right out of the ground is amazing. But we're also known for a comprehensive mix of heirloom tomatoes, and we use different seeds each year, and we plant them in different areas every year to maximize the soil health, and the taste, and the yields that can come off the property. We're a bit unique, Eric, in that the property develops mostly heirloom type products. So we
Hmm.
have different types of heirloom peppers, heirloom eggplants. So we try to really test our boundaries, um, with what our crop yields are, being a bit unique, but also allows us, and Wilton, not to speak for him, to really be able to understand the soil microbes and how we're using our water effectively to produce those crops.
Wilton, would you say that's probably the biggest challenge that you have to deal with up there is trying to find that balance with the regenerative farming and making sure to keep the soil where it needs to be and trying to balance that with also, you know, attempting to diversify the crop rotation? Would you say that that's probably the hardest aspect of what you guys have to do up there, or would it be something else?
Yeah, it would probably one of the hardest parts too, especially in terms of thinking about the soil and with being close to the lake and trying to protect it, and with soil erosion. I think that would be one of our critical factors here,
We'd spoken a little bit about the worms and the birds, but I imagine there's also a fairly strong fish population you have to think about as well, right?
right? Because
Correct.
especially the thinking about how Lake Simcoe is on a year-round basis, there's ice fishing that takes place here, and normal fishing in the summer. So we definitely need to protect our lake, especially how close we are to the lake. We're just a walk away from it.
So ice fishing, so you guys are up there to where it will completely freeze over the entire farm.
Right. The lake will
Mm-hmm.
completely freeze over, and we have a abundance of persons coming up for ice fishing.
How
Mm-hmm.
does that impact your operations though when you have a farm with a crop yield that becomes completely frozen over?
Luckily, we have the greenhouses that we have heated throughout the winter. So that's mainly how we kind of keep a almost year round consistency in production.
Very nice. And what do you guys, is it the greens that you guys keep in the greenhouses, or the heirloom tomatoes, or
It's a combination based on the season, but in the winter, it's the greens for sure. And what I was going to add, Wilton's absolutely correct, is sorry, going into next winter season, we are looking at modular vertical farming as well for the property. So we'll be bringing in more modular opportunities. We are particularly in a very cold part, winterized, if you will, in
Mhm.
Canada. It does freeze over on the farm. So we are looking at different opportunities to ensure that we can continue all the great work that we're doing with our academic partners up here at the farm to be able to teach farming and the benefits of regenerative farming all year round. So we'll be adding our modular vertical farms hopefully in the fall, and that'll be also a new project for us this coming winter.
And again, for those who may not be super familiar, what are these modular vertical farms you're talking about, and what's the benefit to incorporating those?
So it's basically similar to the digester that I was mentioning.
Hmm.
They create shipping containers, but they use their own designed containers to do hydroponics. And basically, that is allowing you to grow leafy green vegetables mainly. And instead of using soil, you're using a nutrient enriched medium as the soil in that sense to allow the plants to grow. And the plants are now given the optimal temperature they need, optimal growing conditions that they need, so that they don't have to produce anything that will allow them to be stressed. They're now in an even environment, and all the plants can grow at an even rate. And you usually get much more nutrient enriched end products as the goal.
So would it be fair to say that the modular vertical farming approach is a quality over quantity approach to farming?
I would say it's a bit of both, because you are able to get a a harvest in a shorter period of time in that kind of environment, and you're able
Mm,
to rotate a bit more, that you probably wouldn't have been able to do in a normal farm environment. So it's a bit of both, trying to optimize both at the same level, the quality and the quantity.
yeah. And Susan, you talked about some of your educational partners up there. You guys work directly with a couple higher learning organizations, correct?
We do. We have academic affiliations with Trent University, which has an incredible agriculture and environment program. We work with them through that program with their Trent Farm and advancing small scale sustainable agriculture. But we also work with their education program and their ethics research programs, because what we do, as I mentioned, in really listening and understanding what children are curious about and how to get them involved, is really a novel idea from an academic perspective in how we build programs for children. So we're actually doing some research with Trent, not just on the labor of, if you will, of the farm, but how we're incorporating children into our concepts and program development. And then we also have an affiliation with one of the colleges here, which is at Durham College, and they look at urban farming. And we're working with them on creating pathways for urban farmers of the future, and why we look at different research projects on our property. We're fortunate enough to be able to create that environment, to have Wilton on the team as a scientist and have a really well-rounded farming team as well. Is we have an agripreneur program where we have different entry points of people who are curious and interested in green jobs of the future. We bring them onto the farm and we create the modules. The academic modules are taught on our property, but also we have all the hands-on practical experience at our farm, which is a blessing to be able to teach and grow our leaders in these areas of the future.
Agripreneur, that's a great word. I like that.
Yeah, yeah.
uh, Obviously, you guys have a ton going on up there already between both the foundation and the farms. Are you guys already looking toward the future? Any plans for future projects for both the foundation and the farm?
We are looking at expanding our reach of what we do as a land-based property on a lake. We're looking at other opportunities to be able to grow our agripreneur and our education programs in other areas of the province as well. So stay tuned.
Well, it sounds like you guys have a lot of stuff going on. But very quickly, how can people find you to check out all this stuff, to see what you're doing, to check out Future Chicken, to book a wedding, even? How can they find you?
Thank you for asking that. So please check us out at the clearwaterfoundation.com. Through that website, you'll be able to find our website links to futurechicken.com and all of her platforms, of course. And as well, Clearwater Farm can be found online at ClearwaterFarm.ca.
And Wilton, Susan, I want to thank you all so much for joining me once again today. To everybody listening right now, make sure to go ahead and check out everything that Clearwater Farms, the Clearwater Futures Foundation, and of course Future Chicken has going on. Links to those will be in the description of this episode. One last time, thank you guys so much for taking some time out of your day to speak with us here at Recyclist.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, thank you, Eric. We really appreciate you inviting us onto the podcast, and it's been a joy chatting with you and getting to know all the work that you're doing as well.
Well, thank you very much. And make sure to check everything out that they have going on at Clearwater. And also, do me a favor, you can also check out diamondsci.com while you're at it. Diamond Scientific is an industry leader in gas analysis, instrumentation, and solutions. Again, that's diamondsci.com, or you can call them at 321 223 7500 to set up a personalized presentation today. Once again, my name is Eric Provost. I've been your host, and you've been listening to Recyclist. Check back next week for another brand new episode. Have a great week, everyone. Thank you.